Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a quiet crisis that's happening right now on the front lines of our healthcare system. It's something that doesn't just threaten the system itself, but really, it hits at the well-being of the very people we trust to look after those who need it most.
So let's just jump right in with a pretty stark reality. Turnover among frontline healthcare workers, we're talking CNAs, aides, support staff, it is so incredibly high that people call it a revolving door. Folks are coming into the job and then leaving almost as fast as they came.
And that right there brings up a huge question that honestly affects every single one of us, whether we see it day to day or not. What actually happens when the people we depend on for care are themselves hitting a breaking point?
Okay, let's get into it. To really wrap our heads around what's going on, we need to break down the three big, interconnected problems that are basically fueling this entire crisis.
It's really like a perfect storm. You've got facilities that are stretched impossibly thin because of major staffing shortages. Then, the pay and the opportunities just don't line up with how tough the job is. And all of that, it all leads to one thing, just widespread, crippling burnout.
So, let's dig a little deeper into that whole revolving door idea, because it's so much more than just a headache for HR. We're going to see how it snowballs into a much bigger problem for the facilities and for the quality of care itself.
And wow, just look at the scale of this problem. We're not talking about being down one or two people here. A whopping 80% of these places are reporting significant or even severe shortages. I mean, that's an industry right on the edge.
And you can see the chain reaction pretty clearly here. High turnover means facilities are just constantly burning through money to train new staff. That, in turn, puts these crushing workloads on the people who stay, who are already exhausted. And what's the final awful consequence? It directly leads to a higher risk of bad outcomes for the very residents they're there to care for.
So you have to ask, right? Why are people leaving in the first place? Well, a huge piece of that puzzle is what we're calling the compensation gap.
And this is where you really see the massive disconnect. On one side, you've got the job demands. We're talking heavy physical lifting, intense emotional stress, and needing the skills to handle really complex needs. But then you look at the reality for so many workers. Low wages, not so great benefits, and really no clear way to move up.
You know, this goes so much deeper than just the paycheck. It creates a whole culture where workers feel completely and fundamentally undervalued for doing some of the most difficult, most essential work there is. And that leads to people checking out, looking for what they call easier jobs, even if the pay is about the same.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about the human cost of this broken system. Let's talk about burnout and how all this physical and emotional strain just adds even more risk into the equation for everyone.
Now, when we say burnout in this context, we're not just talking about feeling a little tired after a long week. It's a specific kind of complete physical and emotional exhaustion. It's what happens when you combine the intense physical work, like lifting residents day in and day out, with that deep emotional stress of caring for people who are often in decline.
And the consequences of that burnout, they're immediate, and they are serious. When staff are burned out, they're more likely to make mistakes, to call out sick, or even to get hurt on the job. All of that just throws a wrench in the daily operations, and, you guessed it, once again, it directly puts the residents' safety and care at risk.
So, if the old standbys, the occasional thank you, the pizza parties, if they just aren't cutting it, what's the real alternative? How do you even begin to solve a problem that's this deep and this systemic?
Look, the bottom line is that these kinds of superficial perks, as nice as they might seem, are basically like putting a tiny Band-Aid on a giant wound. They don't even begin to touch the real root causes of this crisis. You just can't fix systemic burnout with a free slice of pizza.
And I think this quote from our source material just hits the nail on the head. It's calling for a totally different way of thinking about this, moving away from those temporary morale boosters and towards real, meaningful support.
So the new strategy is to start treating employee well-being like a core part of the business plan. This means actually giving people tools for mental fitness and coping with stress, helping them build healthy habits like getting better sleep, and offering real support that helps not just them but their families too. It's a real investment, not just another line item expense.
And here's the kicker. This isn't just feel-good stuff. There is a real, tangible business case for caring about your people. When you invest in their well-being, turnover drops. That means you're not constantly spending a fortune hiring and training. And what you get is a workforce that's happier, healthier, and flat-out performs better.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. We throw around the word essential all the time to describe the work these people do. But if the care they provide is truly essential, then how do we make caring for them essential too?